good morning. This is, of course, Dr. Jimmy at your service. And this will be my second video in my history of Halloween Horror Nights 23, What Evil Has Taken Root, at Universal Studios Florida in the year 2013. Of course, first I get to show off my t-shirt. Today's t-shirt of the day is Grand Theft TARDIS. Yes, a nifty little Doctor Who mash-up with the video game Grand Theft Auto. Very clever parody design, which I believe was actually fan-made and purchased at Redbubble, of course. Quite delightful. Now, sometimes I sing a song for no good reason in these videos. I have a wee bit of a good reason for this one. Maybe a not so good reason as well. A naughty one. But we'll get to that someday. Maybe, maybe not. But here, for whatever reason, I do want to open with a bit of a song which has something to do with Halloween Horror Nights 22, oddly enough. The point I want to make about that. But I start out talking rather than singing. Leaving Lepidoptera. Please don't touch the displays, little boy. Cute. Moving to the next style, we have Arachnida, the spiders. Our finest collection. This friendly little devil is the Heptathudae, unfortunately harmless. Next to him, the nasty Lycoceraptoria. His tiny fangs cause creeping ulcerations of the skin. And here my prized Black Widow. Isn't she lovely? And so deadly. Her kiss is 15 times as poisonous as that of the rattlesnake. You see, her venom is highly neurotoxic, which is to say that it attacks the central nervous system, causing intense pain, profuse sweating, difficulty in breathing, loss of consciousness, violent convulsions, and finally, death. You know what I think I love about her most? Is her inborn need to dominate. Possess. In fact, immediately after the consummation of her marriage to the smaller and weaker male of the species, she kills and eats him. Oh, she is delicious, and I hope he was. Such power and dignity, unhampered by sentiment. If I may put forward a slice of personal philosophy, I feel that man has ruled this world as a stumbling, demented child king long enough. And as his empire crumbles, my precious Black Widow shall rise as his most fitting successor. These words he speaks are true. We're all humanaries stew, if we don't pledge allegiance to the Black Widow. The horror that he brings, the horror of his sting, the unholiest of kings, the Black Widow. Our minds will be his toy, and every girl and boy will learn to be employed by the Black Widow. Love me, yes, we love me. Love him, yes, we love him. Love me, yes, we love him. He sits upon his throne and picks at all the bones of his husbands and his wives he's devoured. He stares with glee, with a laugh so obscene, at the virgins and the children he's deflowered. Sorry. Love me, yes, we love me, love him, yes, we love him. Our thoughts are hot and crazed, our brains are webbed in haze, our mindless, senseless days, the Black Widow. These words he speak are true, we're all humanary stew, if we don't pledge allegiance to the Black Widow. There we go. Nice bit of a creepy little spider song. Oh my. What sort of cobwebs am I coming up with now? Oh, no. Wrong house. I'm talking about something hasn't happened yet. Something that has happened yet. Something that happened 4 years ago. Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare was the haunted house at the 2012 Halloween Horror Nights 22. We talked about that recently in a previous video. But I wanted to point something out, and I thought the best way to point it out was to present the very song to you with my pallid attempt, my pallid, unprofessional attempt to imitate the voice of Vincent Price at the beginning and try to do some justice to Alice Cooper's rendition. Oh, in his Specht-Singen style. And what do I get? Listen to the lyrics, for fuck's sake. Black Widow. We always think of the Black Widow in popular culture as, well, girl. I mean, after all, we have Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, that lovely spy, assassin, hot chick, Russian killer, Avenger. We've seen her in all the movies. And if you're old enough, or you've got, reruns, you can go back and see Tallulah Bankhead with her cigarette holder, and that's actually a letter opener, but cigarette holder, being all camp as a Batman villain of the same name. We've got all these wonderful Black Widows in popular culture. They're all women, of course. Of course they're women. The Black Widow, it's a female spider. Widow is a feminine noun. And yet, listen to the lyrics of the song that it just sang. Love him, he's on his throne, his husbands and wives he's devoured. It's not only a dude, it's a man, baby, but he's apparently bisexual. We've got a male spider here. Even though they usually get devoured by their wives, this is the other way around, this guy. This is a boy Black Widow. We've not seen that very often. And it seems to be Vincent Price himself. If you saw the movie, not the movie, the TV thing, where Vincent Price is guiding Alice through and he's got Alice on a leash, and there's like his throne that he sits on. He's the Black Widow. It's like he became the person he's talking about. So that's kind of clever. A bit of gender bending, really, and I guess what you expect from a guy who calls himself Alice. But what I want to make a point about the house is when you were in the house, they had, of course, a scene dedicated to the track from the album Welcome to My Nightmare, which I just sang for you, because that's where the song's from, the Black Widow, right? And in the house, the Black Widows are women. There's one rather sexy, seductive, and then another one that's kind of scary, spider face. But both of them are definitely female. So my question, which will never be answered, but my question is, did art and design screw it up? Did they just not listen to the song carefully and realise it's a man, baby? Did they not realise that? Or do they think it would confuse the guests? Some of whom are not familiar with the music of Alice Cooper, as I discovered, as I mentioned in that anecdote I gave before. Who is she? Yeah. Some of them might not be familiar enough with him to get, a male Black Widow in that scene and go, huh? I don't get it. It might cause that kind of problem, gender confusion or even panic in the mind of the poor. And they don't want to go there, I guess, in a haunted house at Horror Nights, although I think that'd be clever. But it'd be like if Chance turned out to be Jack in drag. Oh well. But Yeah, so what, or was it some other thing? You know, I we'll never know, I suppose, but you know, maybe they decided to keep it simple and do a female Blackbird that people would understand, or maybe they just didn't bother to listen to the mixed song very closely. Whatever. Anyway, there's something else about Halloween Horror Nights 22 I have to talk about before I continue with Halloween Horror Nights 23, and that I've mentioned before that the Horror Unearthed game, which ended after the event ended in November. Yes, in November we continue to get, you could go back and play more games, and you could score up more points for your bloodlines and get more badges. If you hadn't got all the badges, you could get some more, you know, like how many games you've won, that sort of thing. And, you know, won so many times this Mashorian game or that Bacanoid game or whatever. You could also, you know, check some of that stuff out on the site. But one day, and we were also getting those clues, those little puzzle pieces we put together to form the bloodline family trees. But sometime after that, in late November or early December, I don't remember precisely, I'm sure there's some anal person out there who's got it all written down and can give me the exact date, but on one particular date, all of a sudden you couldn't go back on the game again, because when you brought up the front page of the Horror Unearthed website, which of course had this great aperture, this cavern, this hole going deep down into the bowels of the earth, from which had emerged the iniquitous and all the legions of horror. But now, when you went there, that cavernous opening was all boarded off. Ooh. And there was like chain link and barbed wire and that yellow crime scene security tape and a big placard which read, "Keep out! Deadly force authorized." Oh my goodness, they'll shoot you if you try to trespass here, my goodness. And it's the great seal with the sort of gargoyle kitty cat face of the collective known as Legendary Truth. Yes, Legendary Truth had come back from beyond after 2 years of not knowing anything about what they were doing. Suddenly they came back and closed off Horror Unearthed, sealed it off, and left that message for us. So that was, of course, the end of Horror Unearthed, but also the beginning of Legendary Truth again, because it was clearly an indication, a clue, that Legendary Truth would be coming back in 2013 in a big way. And that, of course, would spark anticipation in those of us who like to play along with those interactive games and such. So that was a bit exciting. So I should have mentioned that before, but I forgot to. Which takes us right back to where I left off. In the previous video, which was, of course, how the event was slowly being teased to us. Teased in the summer of 2013, 3 hours ago, by use of the website and the blog that was on the website, which had been created by the blog poster known only by the initials PS. Who was PS? Mystery. So, we started reading the blog posts, and they started out with little quips here and there, and we began to slowly piece together over weeks and weeks who PS was. It took us a while, and all sorts of things began to happen before we figured it out, but we started to figure out a little bit about this person, PS. We began to figure out PS was indeed a young person. That's a relative comment, of course. To me, a young person. To some of you out there, not so young. If you're a teenager in high school, an old person. Because, you know, someone in the early 20s is ancient when you're 15. But when you're 53, there's not much difference. I mean, you're all kids as far as I'm concerned. Little children, run away. Get off my lawn, damn it! Get off my lawn! You know, for your meddling kids, I'd have... Sorry? Went full Scooby-Doo there for a moment. Yes. But yes, PS was a young person, apparently in the early 20s, college age. As one of the things that we discover in the clues, PS had been recently in the city of Salzburg, had a screensaver of a castle on a hill in Salzburg, Austria, and apparently had been attending university there, had been studying abroad at the University of Salzburg. Now, it was Salzburg University actually. And I was, of course, delighted to see this because it was another one of those bizarre coincidences that seem to happen to me all the time, especially in reference to Halloween Horror Nights. Pardon me, I've got a bit of a... It's in the morning and I'm not entirely conscious. That's why I had to stop and cough in the middle of the Black Widow song. Alice Cooper imitation makes your throat go, those voices are not good. Not good for the throat. Vincent Price is much better, but Alice, anyway, going back to where I was. Oh, golly wolly. What was I talking about? Oh yes, Salzburg. Yes, because it was one of those weird coincidences. I'd just been there myself. Yes, I'd actually been in Salzburg, Austria, just a couple of months earlier. I'd been there as at a conference in Munich, Germany, actually, and one day during the conference, all of the lectures and presentations were given only in German and for some odd reason Turkish. And there were interpreters for the Turks, but they were speaking German. And so those of and I can't speak a bit of Turkish. I do know a little German. His name is Hans. He's about 3 feet tall. Oh, that was awful. Sorry. Oh, and so on that day. Those of us English speakers, we headed off on train to go to the city of Salzburg, Austria, which is really not terribly far from Bavaria. You can actually take a train from Munich to Salzburg, get there in maybe an hour and a half or so, and you can spend the rest of the day out exploring that marvellous little city, which is quite beautiful. And that very same castle that was on her screensaver up on the hill, very nice. And you also have, of course, the city is the birthplace of the great composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Yes, yes. Wrote many of the great hits of the 18th century, or whenever it was he was composing. He's dead now, so he's not composing anymore. He's decomposing. Sorry, again, couldn't help it. Evil. Anyway, and also in that city was I think it's Doppler. Famous physicist Doppler, who discovered a Doppler effect, you know. Doppler effect, for you Big Bang fans out there, you get that. And was also, of course, Salzburg is the location where the family von Trapp lived. And then, of course, the Nazis came. The Nazis came and they Anschluss and annexed Austria. And as a result, the Von Trapp family singers got the hell out of town. Who could blame them? You know, and it involved nuns taking automobile parts out of the Nazis' cars so they couldn't. Never mind. Anyway, you've seen the movie, you know. I'm talking Julie Andrews, yes, and Sound of Music, yes. Hills Are Alive and all that, which sounds kind of scary. Are the hills actually alive? Anyway, that doesn't actually happen in the movie, but it would have been fun, much more interesting if there were living hills chasing them. Anyway, getting back to the thing. So if it was shot in the town itself, though, the movie was actually shot on location in Salzburg. And so when I was there... God, I hate that. When I was there, back then, a few months before the PS thing happened, I saw the statues and fountains and the castle, all the things you could see in the movie. I was like, oh my. And I wanted to get a souvenir. So I went to get to a little shop that sold t-shirts, because I like t-shirts, right? And there was some, you know, Austria, that's a bit generic. Here's one that was really funny. There are no kangaroos in Austria. That was a t-shirt, yeah. And I thought, funny, because there's dumb tourists who think, you know, Austria, Australia, and they don't know the difference. It's like, oh, they expect to find, where are all the kangaroos? I thought there were kangaroos here in Austria. No, you Dummkopf. Das ist Australia. This is Austria. That's right. Australia is where they've got kangaroos and wombats and didgeridoos and bunyips and billabongs and Uluru, the great Isles of Rock out on the outback, and all that stuff. Got all that in the great southern land, Australia. Austria is the Eastern Reich, Österreich. It has nothing to do with the southern Austria. It's on the other side of the planet. It's Europe. Got cuckoo clocks, lederhosen, beer, lots of beer, yeah, chocolate, you know, bracing alpine scenery and friendly sausages, to quote Pinky in the Brain. And, you know, you got all that. You got no waltzing Matilda in Austria, just Viennese waltzes by Johann Strauss. It's a different country, different frickin' country. So I thought that was clever. But still didn't get that t-shirt. I got a Salzburg University t-shirt because, of course, I was a visiting professor going to a lecture thing in Munich, and I thought, you know, day trip in Austria, fun, here it is, Salzburg University, I'll get that. So I got a t-shirt, so I actually have a t-shirt of the school that PS went to. And I thought, so when PS turned out to be a student at Salzburg University, fuck, I have a Salzburg University t-shirt, I was just there. I just made my whole day. I'll have to continue this in part 3.